I want you to tell the audience exactly what you're talking about. When you say left behind, what exactly happened?
And they were set to go get my guy. They were going to go out into Kabul, risk it all, pick my guy up and come in. And then the Abbey Gate exploded. And SIVs were the least of everybody's worries, right? And now it's like, in my mind too, it's like, what about the American citizens that are there?
What's up, y'all? Sean French back with another episode of the Determined Society podcast. Today, I am jacked up. It's one of the first. I got a retired infantry Marine on the show. He is a war veteran, the author of the war memoir, Lines of Marjah, a public speaker, as well as a host and founder of the Choices, Not Chances podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored today to have this gentleman on my show, listen to his story and some of the things that he has to tell us that, you know, we just see in the news. We, as Americans, a lot of times we have the disadvantage of not actually living the lifestyle that we're seeing on TV, right? This gentleman right here, I can't wait for you to hear his story. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to welcome my boy, Ryan Rogers, to the show. What's up, homie?
Hey, man. How's it going? Grateful to be here. Honored. Happy to sit down and have a conversation for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you can tell how excited I am. You know, we met on LinkedIn, dude. I'm all jacked up. I usually have high energy, but I'm really excited about this show. You know, initially when you asked me like, hey, what's going to be the main driver on the conversation of the show? I'm like, well, I like to talk about, you know, people's stories and their adversity and their triumphs. My listeners love that. But they love authenticity. And once I dug a little bit deeper into what you had going on, man, like, dude, your experiences are super powerful, man. And I want to give you the floor, dude. I want you to, you know, tell everybody, you know, who you are, where you're from, you know, what you're doing now, and just what you've been through.
Check. Yeah. So I'm Ryan Rogers. Yeah. A retired infantry Marine. I did a pretty wild deployment. I deployed 5 times as a Marine, as an infantry guy, and you know, it was the light of my life. I love, outside of my family, it was the joy of my life, was leading, you know, these national treasures in war, and that's what we do. And I was retired after a deployment in 2010. I was actually retired in 2014, but in Marjah, Afghanistan, which is what the memoirs kind of covers, is our 7 to 8 months with my squad, you know, fighting for the city of Marjah in Afghanistan in 2010. So it was a wild deployment, man. I did 4 deployments before that and never had seen, you know, I had never been able to be in a kinetic situation where they said, oh, go do your job now. You know, it was always a lot of rules and a lot of stipulations and a lot of you know, just rules that you have to follow in all my other deployments. And not all of them were all combat. But when we got there, we were fighting a determined enemy that had numbers and had weapons. And so we got it on, and it was wild. I remember in the opening, you know, days of Marjah, everything in my life, in the Marine Corps and in my life, was never as bad as what they said it was going to be, ever. And that one was worse than they said it would be. They just were there to fight. And so it was good. I mean, there was a lot of human psychology, learned a lot about human psychology, both on my, you know, on friendly side and on enemy side. I learned a lot more about my job and the practical application of war. And it was amazing. But one thing I took away early in the deployment, I took some books with me. And always kind of been a reader, but late bloomer, as it turns out, as it pertained to my job. But one of them that pertained to my job that I took with me was Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell. And I was reading that, you know, at night after firefights all day. I'm reading that and kind of learning from his situation, and then later on, that would be a beacon of hope for me to say, if this dude was able to make it, and he's able to put this down, now he's able to give back through his foundations and his podcast, and that's something I can do too. And so, so we did the deployment, and I came home, and during the deployment, I was talking about writing a book. I told everybody, dude, we got to write about this. Somebody has to write about this. It's insane. Marines haven't done this since Fallujah, maybe, and before that, who knows. So got home, started drafting up the book. Got we talked offline a little bit. I got a third of the way through it and realized, I'm a Marine in the infantry. I'm not a writer. And at that point, I was dealing with some blown out eardrums and some psychological damage. And so the Marine Corps ultimately retired me. And then I went to school. I went for creative writing. I went for, and when they asked me what I wanted to do, I said, I wanted to fight wars. I didn't want to do any of this, so what do I want to do now? I don't know. I want to help the warfighter. And that means I need to speak. And that means I need to write. And that means I need to build a social media podcast, whatever it is, because that's where they are now, the digital age. These Marines are on Instagram. They're getting their information just like everybody else. So, years ago, I decided right when they retired me, that's what I need to work towards. And so I took the writing, I took speech drafting and speech writing, I took public speaking. And then for my bachelor's, I took Homeland Security to stay in the vein, anti-terrorism and intelligence fusion. So released the book. The book had a great review. And then, I had guys I didn't even know that I served with hitting me up saying, hey, man, keep doing good work. We love this. Really was hoping somebody would put something out for our generation. And so that kind of lifted me up and pumped me up like, hey, I knew I could, inspire these guys and help these guys. So I called up Matt Charette, who was, if you read the book, he's my next in command of my guys, of my squad. He's my, assistant patrol leader, my APL. And I called him up, and he's got a full-time gig as a heavy diesel mechanic working on forklifts and stuff down on the coast for the oil business. And I call him up. I say, hey, man, I know you're busy, but I'm doing this, and I need somebody to do it with me, or I'm doing it alone, and I'll hire somebody, but I'd really rather it be you. And he was like, bet, run it, let's go. And so we purchased the equipment to do a podcast, kind of got our feet wet covering the book a little bit in the first couple of episodes. And then it was like, no, this ain't about me. This is about keeping it current and helping these dudes, whether it's helping dudes in transition, bridging the military civilian divide, and assisting veterans during their time of transition, whatever that, I got to go get that. And I have the ability to help them. And now it's just kind of going. We're in our second year podcasting, and we've been rocking people. I mean, we've had a ton of guests, some SF guys from 3rd group, 7th group. I got some 10th group guys coming, some CAG guys. I've had infantry Marines. I've had my brother is a principal in a small school in Appalachia, Ohio. Had him on. Some of my mentors. And then some current hitters that are out there still doing work and helping us understand the transition that the Marine Corps is going through and different service branches. So, it's been great. That's kind of me. That's kind of my platform. And, I guess we can go from there.
Dude, that's awesome. So first of all, ladies and gentlemen, for those that are listening, I mispronounced. It's Marjah. I am sorry.
All good.
I'm a jackass. And I will admit when I'm wrong, or I will, be accountable to myself always. So Marjah, my apologies. Second of all, you mentioned something in the very beginning, right after I introduced you, you talked about, you were honored to be here. I appreciate that, but I'm honored to have you.
I appreciate that.
First of all, again, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for doing the shit that nobody else wants to do. There's a lot of people in America that are too lazy to get up in the morning and work out, much less go in firefights all fucking day and get back and work on their self-development, and then set a mission and a promise to themselves when they got back to the homeland to write a book, to do a podcast, to be an influencer of substance, and to speak on the behalf of these people. Man, I got to tell you, I saw a video on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna preface this for the listeners. Everybody remembers when we pulled out. We pulled out our troops. We pulled out our embassy. We absolutely left. And all these people, right? And when there's this big outrage, I don't know if you guys remember this, But guys, think back to, was it last fall? Whenever the country was in an uproar because we pulled out of the Middle East. And there was people left there, right? Now, a lot of these people helped the United States soldiers translate. Our allies were there, and we left them fucking behind. And you're about to hear a real story of this. One of Ryan's, translators who turned into a friend. Talk to us about Cameron, man.
Yeah. So in 2010, the deployment that I was referencing, the deployment that the memoir Lines of Marjah is written about, Cameron was 18 or 19 years old, young man from the Pashnir Valley who wanted to bring peace, stability, and democracy to his country. And he knew that if he went and tried out and got the schooling, he said from a very, very early on that he wanted to do that for his people, for his country, and for his family. And so in 2010, he comes out and he does the necessary schooling, and he gets attached to 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, Kilo Company. And inside a Kilo Company, he floated between, a couple platoons, but he was mainly with my platoon. And he was a warrior, dude. These guys come out, they're not allowed to have a weapon. And they roll with us into the breach. And he did that many nights. And one night in particular that I'll talk about was a bad night, a bad situation. Ended up good, but Cam's with me, and he's rolling with our teams. And we go on just a basic patrol, and we're on our way back from patrol, and we get a fragmentation order, a frago. And a frago is simply like, hey, something came up. This is a short and condensed order of what I need you to do. And basically it was that they had some fighters hard pointing a rather large building with several weapons and guys, and it was just outside of like our firm base, maybe a click or two outside of our firm base, and so that's too close for comfort. And so I was fragged to go, investigate that. And so we get over there, and we're other side of the road, about 450 meters away. We're looking at them through nods, and sure enough, they got a sniper on the roof. They got a machine gun facing the other way as the sniper on the roof, and then they had guys at each corner of the building. So in my eyes, as a grunt, they're not supposed to be there, and I'm about to drop mortars on. I'm not even getting close to that building, right? Mm-hmm. So I start generating a fire mission to send back to the cop, and we just take these guys down. Nobody will get risked. I'm super stoked about it.
Yeah, sure.
And then one of my counterparts, Afghan Army squad leader, his name was Woundy Gul. He came up to me and he said, this is no good. These are friendly forces. These are local militia. Problem with that was local militia didn't check in with the Marines like they're supposed to. So how do we know that that's local militia or not posing or whatever? Well, when I report that to higher, they're worried about an international incident and say, hey, you got to go investigate this. You can't drop mortars. So now it's like I got a building that has no cover, no buildings, no rat lines, no trenches, no micro terrain, trees, no anything for about 300 meters in all directions of it. And I got to close that at night and hope that they don't get the drop on me. And even if they are friendly, they already got the drop on me if they're on the roof. And if they interpret me as enemy, they could just make an accident. Anyway, long story short, we push another squad out. I'm looking across, this thing is amazing. Looked like a video game. I'm coming across with Cameron and 4 Marines. And we're just, we're spread out and we're just stalking straight up to them. And I had a sister squad come out, and they hard pointed some buildings where we were at in the trench looking, observing. And so as we're closing on the enemy, every one of them's got lasers on them, from that other squad. And the deal was, hey, if they hit me, I'll be okay knowing that whole squad's dumping on them. And we made an on-call target with their grid so the mortars would drop, that nobody would get away if they hit us.
Right.
But I was the one that was out there with my team and Cam, and we're like, oh man, this is so fucked, right?
Cam has no fucking weapon. Like Cam,
no, they're not allowed to have weapons. They're solely putting their trust and faith in us. And some units and some special forces units, some guys do get them interpreters once they've our rules for our area and our ISAF and NATO rules didn't let that happen for him. So here we go. We're closing, and we're like 200 meters, and now we're 100 meters, and now I see them, and these guys are asleep on their rifles. And I told Cam, I said, you say every single thing that I say the way I say it, to the best of your ability. And we get closer, 25 meters now. I'm coming up, and there's like a ramp of dried poppy stems because they had just harvested all the opium or the poppy. And I run up those stems and I muzzle thump the guy in the corner, and boom, he goes over the wall. He falls down. And now Cam's saying everything I'm saying. Hands, 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 we're going in. I don't know if we flashbanged them, because there ended up being 23 guys in there, some 40 weapons, mortars, RPGs, and they actually were friendly forces. They ended up being made a boo-boo and didn't call in. And so, but Cam that night with 4 of us going into a certain food bar situation, right there with us. Let's do it. Wow, I got you. Man. And so that attachment grows, and anybody that's been to combat, it doesn't matter the nationality, the color of the skin, the political mindset of an individual. Mm-hmm. When you are going into combat together, you grow an intimate relationship with people.
You're fucking right.
And so, yeah, so fast forward, and I get a call from one of my saw gunners, like, hey, Cam's in trouble. You need to do something. And I'm sitting in my garage in my studio.
And you're home. You're like,
yeah, I'm at home. I'm retired at this point. Yeah. I'm in school, or I just graduated, and I'm like, okay, I'll see what I can do, and I start making phone calls to people, and nobody, well, what can we do? What can we do? Nobody. And so I went to the media. I wrote an op-ed and got picked up by Fox News, and it was a small little op-ed, but it worked because people started calling me from the State Department. NGOs started reaching out through social media, trying to find me through their Marine connections. I ended up getting connected with a retired lieutenant colonel by the name of Jonathan Myers. And I did a podcast with him that's on my channel as well that talks all about this. And he was one of the guys helping me, setting teams up through organizations like Pineapple Express, and they were set to go get my guy. They were going to go out into Kabul, risk it all, pick my guy up and come in. And then the Abbey Gate exploded, and SIVs were the least of everybody's worries, right? And now it's like, in my mind too, it's like, what about the American citizens that are there? We have American citizens. This just isn't interpreters. We left citizens too. And so that's the uproar you see in the community and in the warfighter community, especially because we have an ethos that say we don't ever leave anybody behind. And
hold on one second. I want to interject real quick. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell the audience exactly what you're talking about. When you say left behind, what exactly happened? They're probably know, but I want you to say it.
I think everybody has maybe an idea of what happened, but there's very conflicting reports on what happened. It seems like a big blame game to me. Marine Corps wants to blame State Department. State Department wants to blame the White House. The White House wants to blame the State Department. State Department wants to blame the Marine Corps. It's just this big finger pointing game, and nobody wants to hold accountability for it. But essentially what happened is, and this is only knowing what I know. Of course, there's probably sensitive and secret information that may sway the opinion, but a lot of people forget about that. And they're like, oh, fuck the government. They don't know what they're doing. But if they had intelligence that suggested if we didn't sooner, it'd be even worse, then you may sway your opinion on what we did. And I'm not saying they did. They probably didn't. But knowing what I know, what we had was a 20th anniversary of a forever war coming up that the president wanted to take a political victory on. I got everybody out by this date. And then we projected that to the Taliban and started cutting backdoor deals, expecting the Taliban to be our outer cordon and the Marines to be our inner cordon. So now we have Taliban operatives gauging who comes in and out of our inner Marine cordon, where all these babies, women, children, and SIVs are trying to get out of the country. And Abbey Gate explodes, shit goes to hell. Everybody's freaking out. And it takes some wealthy operators that start up a Pineapple Express, start buying airlines to fly in there themselves to say, okay, Mr. President, if you don't want to do it and nobody wants to take responsibility, we will do it. And that's what happened. And the United States left, and everybody remembers in the last couple birds going out, these people were so desperate because they knew what the Taliban was going to do to that area that they're holding on to the side of a Hercules and then letting go because, well, you're not going to make it. And we remember seeing it in the reports, and that's what happened. It's truly a humanitarian crisis. But what happened was, as soon as we were gone and Pineapple Express got their last couple people out, and then Ukraine happens, everybody forgets that this has been a year that these people have been going through this. And some of them are American citizens, and some of them are people that helped us for 20 years try to make things better. And so when we leave people behind, on the battlefield, you don't leave people behind. You risk it all. You make sure everybody comes back because that's what you vow to each other. And in this situation, again, there may be things that are classified that we don't know about. And I do know that they tried to urge American citizens to get to Kabul and get out for weeks. Mm-hmm. But when you're in that country's not just like here where you can jump on the interstate and be there in a couple of hours, especially when it's folding to the Taliban across the country. So the good news to report, like you said in the video that you've seen, is that after a year of being in touch with Cam and him hiding in everywhere from cars to basements to attics, and reporting to me and staying in touch with me all the way along the way, he's out now. He's safe with his family, and I'm going to have him on the show to talk about things I don't know about, the atrocities that he witnessed over the last year, and try to bring a point, at least a humanitarian point on it. If people want something humanitarian or against women's rights to go fight against, let's do these are real humanitarian crises. And I'm not saying we don't have our own issues. And I want rights for women just as bad as everybody else, but these women are absolutely being oppressed again because we're not there. I don't know what the answer to that is, because I disagree with Forever Wars too, Sean. I don't think we need to bleed America's sons and daughters of liberty dry so that every place can have a chance to be like us, but to breathe some hope, to ignite a spark in a generation. I think that's important.
Yeah, man. I'm the last person that's qualified to even comment on that. I'm blown away by the story, right? Because I think at some point, everybody, I'd like to say everybody in America, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people in America that said, all right, cool, get out of there. It's not our deal anymore. And they didn't even think about, well, there's not just American citizens there, but there's actual citizens and interpreters from other countries that are there to help our soldiers that are stuck there, right? And that are hiding for their lives every single day, like literally, truly, and it's not an exaggeration.
No.
Like literally, if the Taliban rolls a sensor on their asses and they find out they're cooperatives, they're dead.
Yeah, or if you have a certain bloodline.
Shit,
and I'm going to get more into that with my podcast with Cam.
I'm excited to listen to that, dude. I can't wait for that, to be honest with you. I'm like, I'll share the shit out of that show, dude. Like, I can't wait to hear about it. Yeah.
It needs to be brought up. I mean, and, on the show, I also had something that came out of the fall was, there was a Marine that made some YouTube videos about it. He's had a little following on LinkedIn. His name's, Stuart Scheller. And,
Stuart Scheller?
Yeah, Stuart Scheller. He made some videos right after the withdrawal went bad, and about the Marine Corps and about the generals needing to take accountability and how this is unacceptable. And if we don't hold them accountable or hold ourselves as an institution accountable, we will never stop and break this trend. And they relieved him within 24 hours of his command, tried to put him in a mental hospital, put him in the brig. Ended up kicking him out. 17-year lieutenant colonel took his retirement
in a mental hospital for being
they wanted to get him checked out because for
the most sane comment he's probably ever made in his fucking life.
Maybe.
Wow.
And so he went at him with 2 or 3 more videos, and now he's very political and helping the GOP and endorsing candidates up and down the East Coast and some out in the West Coast and bringing light to some of these very same issues. And it's courageous. I had an interview with him on my podcast where we go into it in depth about the comm role and the communications and the planning failures that came about. And it's not as a way to say, ooh, tis Marine Corps. It's as a way to say, I love the Marine Corps and I gave my entire adult life to it. However, it will fall if we stay this way.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's so great. It's more of an instinctive or a reactionary protection instinct to say, hang on, we got to fix this. They've been looking to get rid of us since the beginning. Let's don't give them reasons to.
Yeah.
Let's hold accountability, and accountability may just look like an after action review. I'm not saying retire somebody. I'm not even saying any of that. What I'm saying is let's look at it seriously, identify the shortcomings, identify where we messed up, and then publish that and say, yes, we messed up right here. And we got to not do it again because this time ended badly. That's accountability at some levels. And that's okay. But to say, nah, he gave me the order. Well, damn it, you're the one in charge of Marines. You're the one who 13 people got to get letters home now. So maybe you should weigh in a little heavier and say, maybe this wasn't a good plan. Because once you sign off on the plan, you signed off on the plan. Now you take full command responsibility of the plan. And I think that's Stuart Scheller's drive. And whether I agree with how he did it, we have certain ways that you can go about these things. I may take issue with how he did it without requesting masks, but nobody else was saying anything at any level. And so it's like, it's one of those tricky situations. So anyway, it's not just me. There's a wealth of people across the internet trying to influence this for change, trying to identify the bad and highlight the bad to bring in and usher in the light, right? Because one of the first things you have to do is identify that there's a problem and what that problem is before you can make any plan towards fixing it. And so that's not all of what my platform's about, but my platform involves veterans and involves helping veterans. And a lot of veterans took this poorly. A lot of veterans did not agree with the way that it fell out. And so it's something that I mean to talk about.
No, I agree with you, man. I for one, I can say, because it's my opinion, that was handled very poorly. And it was concerning. It was saddening. But I got to acknowledge you, man. It's like one of those things where I like to kind of just stop the interview for a little bit sometimes and just look at somebody and just say, like, I appreciate you and I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that.
Good. No, absolutely, man. No, thank you. Because what you're doing in response to everything you've been through is something very special. And, there's a need out there and you're getting out of, and I'm assuming some of it's uncomfortable for you, right? Because you have to find your own voice and you have to be 100% authentic to you. And to your point with Stuart Scheller, is like, you may not agree with how he did certain things, but I tell you what, that joker could drop dead today and you could say, I live my authentic self. Like I did this the way I knew how to do it. And I think that a lot of times, man, when you start on this journey of, social media, podcasting, and speaking like you're doing and writing books, it's like, man, we cannot sit there and think of how is this going to be received? Because if we do that, it's never going to be received well.
Well,
because
we'll never be authentic.
No, it's never going to be authentic. We're going to be sitting there thinking like, okay, like, how do I be what they want me to be? Man, fuck that.
That's right.
There's been so many times I've been approached like, hey, you should really try this. This is a really good stuff. I'm like, no. Like, I'm going to be me. And like the first 2 seasons, my podcast was like me trying to feel like I had to be somebody different. I'm going to say this on the air because I want everybody to understand that. Because there's a lot of people coming to me and saying, hey, love your shit, love your show. I'm like, this is garbage because this isn't who the fuck I am right now. Like truly, like I know like the bulk of it's me, right? But the questions I was asking, the conversations I was having, it's like, man, it wasn't 100% who I was. Now it's like, whatever I say right here on this interview and I put out there into the world, it's how I feel, right? I got to live with that, period. But I'm not going to change who I am for anybody else. And what I really love is because, when you're starting to do this and you're getting your message out there, man, you're the same dude on air right now than you've been in the DMs. You're the same dude that I talked to prior to the show. And I think you could probably agree the same for me. Like, yes, this is a podcast show, but we're going to be 100% authentic and we're going to get our message out. And I'm super glad, man. I am so grateful that our paths crossed because I told you prior to the show, like I've never done a show like this. I've never done a show like this. And, and to your response, like, hey, like we don't have to go that route. I'm like, nah, man. Like, I'm excited for this because this is different.
I watched like 5 of your shows and I'm like, good information, I'm like, I don't know where I fit in with this guy's, content, but I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we did it.
I know that's why you asked the question too. You're like, hey, like what's going to be? I'm like, oh, that motherfucker watched some shit. Like,
yeah.
it's like, I go on the guest's story, right? What their experience is. And bro, I would have went this route a long time ago had I met somebody like you, right? So to me, it's always, I never like to pigeonhole myself to a certain like pace
genre.
of content.
Yeah.
No, it's like, hey, we're gonna have real conversations.
Yeah.
Like,
I talked to a lot of my people, and it's like, a lot of people say, like, where do you come up with who you want to talk to? And like, where do you come up with your content ideas? And it's like in my garage when I'm on the phone with my mentor, like, and then something sparks in that conversation and we go down this, this rabbit hole, and we end up, I have, all these, sticky notes and things all over my desk. And it's like, anytime I have an idea or I read a book of somebody I want to contact, or, that's been a lot of it. I read, man. That's what I love to do. And so I try to push that because you can learn so much. It's like you're getting learned experience on something that you've never had the experience or the opportunity to experience. And it's huge. You grow up your whole life, hopefully hearing that knowledge is power, but you don't really understand that until you understand it, until it clicks and you go, oh, hang on a second. And then for me, that was when I first went to school and I realized I knew nothing about anything. And the more I learned, the more I realized I knew nothing about anything. Right. So
that's a funny, like, dude, it's so funny because like, I say this all the time and a lot of people go like, okay, but you know what I mean? Right. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I don't know what you mean. I'm not a mind reader. Right. But here's what I say, like, knowledge is power. Nah, applied knowledge is power, right? And it's like,
I would say so, yeah. But let's say this. Let's say you read a book about an experience in sales, one that you've never had, selling something you've never sold, whatever. Well, yeah, you now have that knowledge. Do you have to apply it to mean something? Probably, but you have the knowledge now. And if an opportunity came up and said, hey, do you want to sell a $1.7 million crane? And you're like, I've never done that, but I've read all about it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not.
So you're saying that's the application of the knowledge?
Yes. Yes, absolutely, man. Because not everything is, 2 + 2 = 4, dude. Right. It's not always going to be like, I read this book or have this conversation with my mentor and be like, okay, now I'm going to apply this knowledge right away. I do believe knowledge is power, but I also believe applied knowledge is even more powerful, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, it solidifies, you're taking action on this knowledge, right? And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of things that go on. Like people can read book after book after book after book,
never do anything.
But that's what I'm saying. Applied knowledge is power. They sit there and they don't ever do anything with it. It's just like, well, I'm well read. I'm like, okay, but what are you doing with it?
What effect are you having with it?
What the fuck? Like, who are you fucking helping now? Like, dude, we were put here on this earth to help people. Like, we're not meant to be selfish. We're not meant to do this shit alone. We are meant to be there for people.
Yep.
Like when I help people, like I feel good about that shit. Like truly, I'm not in this game for me. Like, I mean, because dude, this shit's a lonely fucking road, dude.
Oh yeah. And a lot of people find that out too late.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Man, I love it, dude. I'm excited to listen to that show with Cameron, man. It's going to be impactful, and you have my word, man. I'll share it.
No, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope you do. And to your listeners, if you guys want to find me, it's Choices Not Chances podcast, and you can visit any one of the social medias, Instagram, Facebook. I also have I have a website at www.choicesnotchancespodcast.com. And if you check that out, I've got some impactful stuff. And, Americans always say, when things come up with the military guys, they want to help. If there's any way we could help, if there's just something we could do. Well, if you visit my website, you'll find that there's a Special Naval Warfare corpsman who's currently on murder trial for the 3rd year in a row over a clear-cut, recorded by video evidence self-defense case. And not to compound it and make it worse, but the case has been dismissed by 2 separate judges for undue command influence, where the colonel, some colonel from DC comes down and threatens the defense attorneys for these Marines and this corpsman, saying, if you go through with this and defend them, your career's affectionately over. And all of them quit. And then it came out in court that happened. So when those things are happening and you're an American and you say, oh, I wish there was a way I can help, go to my website, read about and listen to the podcast about the MARSOC 3. It's front line and center of my website. And then follow the links by clicking on their picture, and it'll take you to your member of Congress, the search page, and you can put in your complaints about why this is even being picked up, because the DOD or Justice just picked it up again after being dismissed twice trying to burn these guys. See it for yourself. I have a retired lieutenant colonel who had been through the process with MARSOC himself back in the day, and was found innocent after a bunch of undue command influence and different things were stacked against them. And these are the guys that are on the front line, you know, holding the line for Americans every single day, and they're not having justice done for them. And so if you want to help, if you find yourself and fancy yourself a patriot, www.choicesnotchancespodcast.com. Check out the story for yourself and make your own judgment. I don't want to make, influence you any more than I have to. Go read the story, hear about the story, watch the podcast, and I'm certain that you'll find some churning in your gut out of it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think my boy Ryan gave you an action plan.
Action plan.
Right. Action plan. Go to his website, and I can assure you, Ryan, all of your contact information is going to be in the show notes, and they're going to be able to click on whatever it is that you need them to click on. And man, I'm so grateful. We'll land the plane here, dude. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. You're doing some amazing things. And if there's anything I can do along the way to help you get your word out, like, I'm all for it. So, I think, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard exactly how you could best support him is by going to his website, click on the links, watch the podcast, right? Follow the links to see who to make your complaints to. Make your own, form your own opinion.
Absolutely.
And man, I just got to tell you, dude, thanks again. And ladies and gentlemen, if you got anything out of this show, I'm going to ask you to share it. Share it on your social platforms. Tag us both, please. I'll share it back to my social. I'm sure Ryan will too. Again, his Instagram is going to be in the handle. His Instagram handle is going to be in the show notes. So as you're listening to this right now, go there, copy and paste, go hit follow immediately, because listen, you're going to want to watch what Ryan's doing, because one day he's going to be so goddamn big because he's going to be helping so many people. And, you'll be able to say, man, I heard him on Sean's podcast way back in the day. So share the damn show, please. With that being said, guys, thank you so much. And until next time, talk to you guys soon. Be safe.